I'm Alex Lawson, filling in for Tom, and we are talking about local activism. We are talking right now. We are going to be joined by phone by Josselyn Berry, who is the interim director of Progress Now, Arizona. Josselyn, thanks so much for joining us on the Thom Hartmann Program.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm happy to be on today.
So right before the break, we had a caller calling in about the local activism that he was taking part in Maryland and the pressure that he was bringing on a local elected official. And he was slightly disappointed because the local official responded in a very snarky manner on to a Facebook post of his. But I was pointing out, like, yes, that is, disappointing. You wanted him to have a town hall, and he just disregarded it. But also, it shows that activism works, and now you just escalate that because he's clearly hearing you and what you're demanding, and he is ignoring it. And this story is happening thousands or tens of thousands of times around the country right now. It is a very encouraging. It is the encouraging thing. It's the thing that gives me hope and makes me smile when I'm staring down news stories like, Donald Trump is the hand on the tiller when it comes to North Korea and things like that, is that the American people are more engaged now than I have seen them actually ever before. What does that look like down in Arizona?
Yeah, I think we're seeing something similar happening in Arizona. We've been a deep red state for a very long time, but I think that tide is changing. And I think it's definitely accelerated now that Trump has been in office, and we have seen how our Republican leaders have been treating the voters. Republican leaders like Jeff Flake and John McCain, all the way down to our state legislators who seem to have complete disregard for the voters and don't treat them with respect, ignore emails, ignore phone calls, and don't respect our voters. But I think people are awake now. We had a town hall last night in Mesa with Jeff Flake. He finally agreed to have one. He has been ignoring numerous calls from his constituents to hold one. He's been in the state. He's been meeting with, our Chamber of Commerce and special interests, but he was refusing to meet with voters. So, he finally had one last night. It was a immense, huge turnout of voters and constituents that were angry about health care, about internet privacy, about gun control, about Planned Parenthood. And it was a massive crowd. People were booing him. People were trying to get him to answer questions. And, he answered them, but a lot of the times I think people felt demeaned and dismissed by him. He would just say, sorry, we don't agree, instead of actually maybe taking the time to listen to voters and changing his mind. I think he came in there, as Jeff Flake, who doesn't work for voters. He works for his special interests and his donors. So that was unfortunate, but just to see that immense crowd of people out there, active, engaged, wanting to be out there all night, that gives me a lot of hope as well.
And we're talking with Josselyn Berry, the executive director of Progress Now, Arizona. And I think that's progressnowarizona.com. Is that right?
Yes, that's it.
Or .org?
.org, yeah.
So everyone should check that out. And I want to tell you a little story. I was just down in Arizona, and we were doing these hands-off Medicare and Medicaid events, and it was me and John Bowser Bauman, who is also known as Bowser from Sha-Na-Na, and we're doing these, and we're going around the country, and we were in Arizona. We were like, okay, well, let's go over to Jeff Flake's office, and there were we do these events with like a handful, actually like a room full of seniors, and then we'll get like a handful of activists to come with us to the office. And we'll go with them, right? They're the constituents, so we're just lending basically Bowser's celebrity to it, to the effort. But we get to Senator Flake's office, and we only had we had two residents, constituents with us. But we get there, and there was actually a dozen people outside his office already who were protesting about Trump care at the time, and keep his hands off Trump care. And they were there, and they're like, oh, yeah, we're coming every day. We're just here. We're just here at his office, making sure that he sees us every single day. And I was like, that is fantastic. And so they were like, they came in with us, and we did deliver our message, vote no on a reconciliation bill that includes Medicare or Medicaid. And we got a news story out of it on radio. And I think, that town hall last night, he was dismissive. And I know that because I read about it in the news. And, that storyline is getting out there. People are demanding access, and the elected representatives have to actually go, and they have to do something. There's no way Flake wanted to do that. He had to. The stories were building up the pressure, and then the stories that come out of it are he's dismissive to his constituents. So, Josselyn, what's next on this continuing to put pressure, not just on Jeff Flake? I know there's a lot of stuff happening in Arizona. What are the main issues that you're working on right now?
Yeah, so, our state legislature has been in session since January, and we've been really facing off on a coordinated attack from our governor and from our Arizona Chamber of Commerce on our ballot measure process. Arizona is one of the few states in the country that has this system. Voters, citizens can organize and put an issue that they care about on the ballot when their legislator refuses to do their job. So, in 2016, we successfully passed the Prop 206 minimum wage and paid sick leave measure. It was the highest vote-getting issue in the state. It even outperformed some candidates. And so people were really excited to successfully pass that in a state like Arizona. But some people weren't happy about it, like Governor Ducey and his donors, like the Chamber of Commerce and the Koch brothers. So they decided to pass a package of 6 bills in the legislature that try and belittle and essentially destroy our ballot measure process here in Arizona. So we've been fighting and organizing against those 6 bills. We were able to successfully kill 4 out of the 6 of them, but 3 of them look like they're going to pass. And these 3 bills, what they do is they allow people to fine up to $1,000 any ballot measure committee. They can subpoena people that volunteer to sign, get signatures for ballot measures by mail instead of by person, which makes it more difficult. And then it also makes citizen ballot measures apply to strict compliance rather than substantial. So that means a ballot measure can be thrown out on something as silly as a technicality as font size or margin. So we've been really trying to fight back against those attacks. We've seen that our legislature is not accountable to the people because we've had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of citizens from across the state calling, emailing, tweeting, Facebook messaging their constituents, their representatives in the legislature, telling them, please don't vote away my constitutional right to the ballot measure. And every single one of these Republican legislators have crumbled because the Chamber of Commerce has come in with their lobbyists and their fancy Brooks Brothers suits, twisted their arms and said, if you don't vote for these bills, we are going to come after you in the next election. And it's unfortunate to see that these legislators crumble at the sight of the chamber rather than standing strong and standing up for voters who say, please protect my rights. I want the ballot measure process to be protected.
And this is such a front line of the attack where you have, it's just so simple in this case. You have money power in the chamber who represent all the money interests and basically can, in the national chamber especially, they're just a giant launderer. They just wash the name off of the money. So then it's the chamber, but you don't know, oh, is that a pharma paid for effort, right? Like we saw this in the fight for Obamacare. Huge amounts of money would come in, and then it would the chamber was kind of the focal point, but it is just money power. And money power lost in Arizona to people power because of ballot measures. So instead of actually fighting, instead of, debating, they're going after changing the rules. They're going after trying to make it harder for people power to actually have a win. It's the same way that they go after voting they restrict access to voting because they know that their bankrupt ideology, they can't win on their ideas, so they try to warp the playing field. And Josselyn, how can people listening get involved? They can obviously go to progressnowarizona.org, but how else can people get involved if they're in Arizona? What are the things that you think people should do right now to fight back against this? Obviously, everyone who voted to put money power above people power need to be held to account in the next election. What else can people do right now?
Well, I think we've been asking people to call Governor Ducey's office and tell them that they don't want to see that their constitutional rights to the ballot measure be taken away and attacked, because we've been hearing that Governor Ducey has been maybe behind the scenes pushing for these bills as well. So we're asking people to call his office and let them know that, if he signs these bills, there's going to be consequences in 2018 for his governor's race. We have David Garcia. He ran for school superintendent in 2014. He recently announced he is considering running for governor against Ducey. So we want to, have support for him. I think people are tired of being bullied by our governor and by our legislature. They don't feel heard. They don't feel respected. They feel that their voice doesn't matter, and that the only people's voice does matter is lobbyists and special interests. So we're trying to get people active and pushing back against Governor Ducey, because he's been a real bully for the people here.
Josselyn Berry, the Executive Director of Progress Now Arizona, thank you so much for joining us on the Thom Hartmann Program.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be on today.